I want to dedicate this whole little session to volunteers. I really did not talk about volunteers when discussing all of the staffing, and that is a huge part of what hospice is. Well, to me, all of it's huge, so you're going to hear me say that about every single discipline. Each specialty, RN, CNA, social worker, medical director. We do call those disciplines here in South Carolina. I'm not sure where you call them in other states. But volunteer is another section of that disciplinary team. It is federally regulated. 5% of your clinical hours spent on patients needs to be filled by a volunteer. So when you're talking with hospice companies, ask them about their volunteer program. I've worked with a lot of big companies that have very healthy volunteer programs, and there's a variety of things that volunteers can do. So let's talk about what they can't do. Kitty again. They cannot bathe your person. They cannot do any kind of hands-on clinical care. These are volunteers. Most of the time, your volunteers are previous family members who have lost loved ones on hospice. I think that is a fantastic way to kind of give back on your experience because, as I said in the previous video, this is a scary request that we're making on families who have had no medical background, no medical training, and you are depending on that hospice team to get you through this. So nursing is a lot like the military. You see one, you do one, you teach one. If we're on that same kind of mind track with grief and grief management and bereavement services, giving back really does help. You are helping a fresh family, a new family, who is getting ready to go on a scary experience. And the fact that you have already been on that journey as a non-medical professional, you can give volumes of knowledge, volumes of comfort to these families that are walking through what you've already been through. So, volunteer coordinating. They can come and sit with your loved one. That way you can run errands, you can take a nap, you can go have coffee with a friend. We've seen families take advantage of that if they still want to attend church services or women's meetings or men's meetings. Go play bingo. It doesn't matter. The only thing is that it has to be pre-planned. It can't be, oh, well, today I need a volunteer to come and sit with my loved one. No, it needs to be a pre-planned, a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, or sometimes really good, to give that volunteer coordinator a chance to find you someone that can come and sit with your loved one. Volunteers have to go through background screenings. I've seen some companies who also require drug testing, and they do have to have the PPD or the tuberculosis skin testing, 2 steps initially, and then once per year. So there is a lot of what we call vetting of volunteers. There is a lot of training that gets involved. Some of my greatest experiences in educating and teaching is being a part of that quarterly training of healthy volunteer programs on the clinical aspects of hospice. When you are a volunteer and you are in that patient's home, you are the hospice expert. So you have been through this experience or you have a love for it. So you do need to be trained clinically on what to expect and when to call the hospice. We would never, ever expect our volunteers to triage any type of clinical situation. They are extra eyes, extra hands, giving extra time to families that really just need a break. So let's do some math, and I'm not great at math. I have no clue what core math is, but let's talk about how many hours hospice companies really do need to cover. Your average hospice will have about 20 patients. Some have much more, some have less. So let's say 20 patients. Each week that patient gets 1 hour of nursing services, whether that be from an RN or an LPN. Of course, there's more. or less. They can get roughly about 5 hours per week of CNA services, the ladies that are men that come in and help give baths, showers, those kind of things. So this is just a rough estimate. I'm averaging that out about 6 hours per week per patient. So if you multiply that by a month, that's 20 hours per month that each patient will get. A census of 20, that takes you to 400 clinical hours a month you have spent with a patient. That is not counting after hours treatments, any of those kind of things. This is just standard hospice patients. So 400 hours per month, and you need to cover 5% of that with a volunteer. That's 20 hours. So you'll see some hospice companies who will offer 2-hour segments at a time, 4-hour segments at a time. It really is up to each individual company how they want to divide that out. We do count volunteer hours for folks that come in and help administratively. Maybe they file, maybe they make admission packets, death packets, maybe they, help gather supplies. One of the hospices that I work with in Charleston, South Carolina, they had 4 ladies come in every week, and they had the patient's list with the supplies that's needed every week, and they bagged supplies, getting it ready for the staff to take out. So there's a variety of ways that volunteers can help. Getting on that bereavement topic again, I have seen families who are trying to recover from the loss of their loved one develop a real sense of healing when they give that time. It doesn't have to be every day or even every week. It could maybe just be once a month. You can give 4 hours. When you give of yourself and give the knowledge that you have been given, whether it's through a great situation or a really hard situation, there's a lot of healing that can come from that. So I do encourage patients and families, not patients, but families, after they've gone through that experience, to volunteer. It's very helpful. These patients and families that are currently going through it feel a huge sense of relief when they are meeting someone and talking with someone who's already been through the experience. Hopefully your experience has been a good one with a hospice, so you can also impart that sense of trust that they can develop with that hospice team. Trust is huge, and it's earned. It's not something that is freely given. So that's volunteers. Sorry, my kitty's being rambunctious again, so I'm having to watch her.